The night air was electric, charged with a tension Lily couldn't explain. Every streetlight flickered like it knew what was about to happen. Every shadow seemed to whisper her name. She had thought tonight was just another ordinary night, just another escape from memories she wished she could bury. But fate had other plans, and then she saw him, her ex Dominic Kane, leaning casually against the bar, that infuriating smirk on his face, making her pulse thrum in a way she hated. But before she could brace herself for the awkward conversation she knew was coming, a sudden movement from the shadows stopped her dead. He stepped into the moonlight, tall, impossibly broad, with amber eyes that seemed to pierce straight through her. He radiated danger and power, and in that instant, Lily knew. This was no ordinary man. Every instinct in her screamed to run, but another, deeper part of her, the part she didn't want to admit even existed, wanted to surrender. Her lips parted before she could stop them. "Please kiss me." And when he did, all she had known about love, desire, and fear shattered. The Alpha King had claimed her, and her world would never be the same again. The moon hung low and silver in the sky, casting an ethereal glow over the quiet streets of Ravenwood. Lily Hart had never felt so exposed, so vulnerable. Her heels clicked against the cobblestones as she hurried past the dimly lit alleyways, heart racing. Tonight was supposed to be just another night out, another meaningless party, to distract herself from memories she wished she could forget. But tonight, fate had other plans. She rounded the corner and froze. There he was, a figure she hadn't seen in years, her ex, Dominic Kane. His smirk was as infuriating as ever, the kind that made her knees weak and her skin crawl at the same time. Her chest tightened. Memories of stolen kisses and broken promises surged like wildfire, leaving her breathless. Before she could think, Dominic's eyes gleamed with recognition. "Lily, you look amazing," he said, his voice smooth but with that same sharp edge that always kept her on alert. Lily forced a polite smile, trying to appear calm, though her pulse was betraying her. "Dominic, hi, it's been a while." He chuckled softly, stepping closer, and that's when the world seemed to tilt. His presence alone made her heart thrum with a mix of fear and longing. And then she saw him standing behind Dominic, partially in the shadows, tall, impossibly broad, shouldered, eyes glowing faintly in the moonlight. Her breath caught. He radiated power, raw, commanding, dangerous. "I wouldn't get too comfortable," the stranger said, his voice low and velvety, making her shiver. "He's not the one in control here." Lily's eyes widened. Something in the way he spoke, the way he moved, the predatory grace of his stance. It was unlike anything she'd ever felt. Her instinct screamed warning, but another part of her, a part she couldn't deny, felt magnetized to him. And then in one fluid motion, he stepped into the light. His piercing amber eyes locked onto hers, and her knees nearly buckled. "Lily Hart," he murmured almost to himself, and yet she felt it as though he had spoken directly to her soul. "You shouldn't be out here alone." Her ex frowned, as if sensing the tension, but Lily barely noticed. Every nerve in her body was on fire. Her heart pounded, and without thinking, the words slipped from her trembling lips. "Please kiss me," she whispered, almost as if in a trance. Time seemed to freeze. The stranger's gaze darkened, a dangerous intensity swirling in those golden eyes. Lily realized with a jolt that her request wasn't just reckless. It was madness. And yet the air around them seemed to crackle with energy, with an unspoken promise of something neither safe nor forbidden. He leaned closer, slow, deliberate, his breath brushing against her cheek. And then, almost cruelly, he paused. "You want me to kiss you?" in front of him. His voice was a growl, and it sent a shiver down her spine. Dominic stiffened, confusion flashing across his face, but Lily didn't care. Her desire, her need, eclipsed reason. She nodded, heart hammering in her chest. The stranger's lips brushed hers in a kiss that was nothing short of electric. A kiss that was fierce, claiming, and intoxicating all at once. And in that moment she knew. He wasn't just any man. He was the Alpha, the King, the one who could take everything from her and still leave her begging for more. Her ex was watching, and she no longer cared. because the world she thought she knew had just shifted forever. The kiss lingered in Lily's mind long after their lips had parted. Her body was still humming with heat, her pulse thundering like a drum she couldn't quiet. She felt dizzy, lightheaded, and most dangerously entirely aware that she hadn't even learned his name. He stepped back slightly, just enough to let her breathe, but his amber eyes never left hers. Every movement he made screamed power and control, and every instinct in her screamed that she was completely, hopelessly in his world now. Dominic stood frozen, his jaw tightening, eyes darting between Lily and the stranger. What the hell are you?" he demanded, trying to regain some semblance of authority. The stranger's lips curled into a faint, dangerous smile. "I am the Alpha," he said simply, and the words hit Lily like a lightning bolt. Her stomach flipped, a mixture of awe and fear surging through her. "Alpha what?" she whispered, barely able to comprehend. He moved closer again, his presence overpowering. "The king of this territory," he said, voice low and commanding. "And you belong to me now." A shiver ran down her spine. The words were possessive, undeniable, and thrilling. Yet her heart ached with confusion. Her ex had been a part of her life, a familiar figure. But this man was dangerous, intoxicating, everything she had never known she wanted. Dominic's face twisted with fury, his voice sharp. "You can't just..." Silence. The Alpha interrupted, and his voice rolled through the night like thunder. Lily felt it resonate through her chest, demanding obedience. Dominic fell back, swallowed by fear he didn't expect. Lily's breath hitched. She could barely move as the Alpha's gaze pierced hers. "Do you understand what this means?" he asked, his voice a velvety growl that made her knees weak. "Yes," she whispered, though even she wasn't entirely sure what she was saying. She only knew she wanted him, needed him, and couldn't resist him, no matter the danger. With a sudden, fluid motion, he took her hand and pressed it against his chest. Beneath her palm, she felt the steady beat of a heart that was as wild and strong as it was possessive. "Your heartbeat, it calls to me," he murmured. "And now, you will follow me." Before she could protest, he turned on his heel and walked toward the forest at the edge of the property, leaving Dominic frozen in the moonlight, powerless and humiliated. Lily had no choice but to follow. The forest air was crisp and heavy with the scent of pine and earth, and with each step, Lily felt herself slipping deeper into a world she had never imagined. She didn't know if she was afraid or exhilarated, maybe both. Every brush of his hand against hers sent sparks up her arm. Every glance from him made her heart pound faster. Finally, they reached a clearing where the moonlight bathed the ground in silver. He stopped, turned to her, and the intensity in his gaze made her feel like she was standing at the edge of something dangerous and thrilling. "You will learn the rules soon," he said, voice low, almost a growl, "but for tonight you will learn the pleasures of being mine." Her breath caught. Desire mixed with fear, with awe, with a wild, primal longing she had never felt before. And then, before she could think, he pulled her into another kiss, fierce, claiming, and full of a promise she didn't yet understand. And this time, there was no one to stop them. The Alpha King had claimed her, and Lily's life, her heart, and her very soul would never be the same again. The night air in the forest was thick with anticipation, and the faint scent of wildflowers mixed with earth. Lily's heart was still racing from the Alpha's claim, but now a creeping unease settled in her chest. The forest seemed alive, shadows stretching like fingers, whispering secrets she wasn't sure she wanted to hear. He led her deeper into the trees, each step deliberate, each movement radiating control. Despite the danger, she couldn't stop staring at him. The way his amber eyes glowed even in the dim moonlight, the sharp line of his jaw, the strength in every stride. She wanted to touch him, to melt into him, yet every instinct warned her to be cautious. Finally, they reached a clearing lit by lanterns suspended from tree branches. Wolves, massive, sleek, and intimidating, stood around, their eyes shining like molten gold. Their growls were low and protective, but there was no hostility toward Lily. Instead, they regarded her with curiosity, as if they could sense the connection between her and their Alpha. "This is your pack," she asked, awe and fear lacing her voice. He nodded, stepping in front of her protectively. They are my family, and they will accept no threats, no dishonor, and no weakness. His eyes locked onto hers, softer now, but still commanding. And you are under my protection. Lily swallowed hard. She felt both privileged and terrified. This was a world she had never known existed, a world of power, of loyalty, of danger, and she was now a part of it. Before she could process, the bushes rustled, and a familiar voice sliced through the night. Lily? Dominic's voice was sharp, laced with desperation and anger. Step away from him, you can't just. The alpha's head snapped toward him, ears flicking with alertness. His stance shifted from protective to predatory in an instant. Back, he growled, and the word rolled like thunder through the forest. The wolves stiffened, their teeth bared, and Lily realized just how deadly they could be if provoked. Dominic faltered, realizing too late that he was outmatched. This isn't over, he shouted before retreating into the shadows, his pride wounded and his fear undeniable. Lily's knees weakened, and the alpha caught her without hesitation. He held her close, his voice a velvety growl near her ear. He won't bother you again, not while I'm here, not while I am your alpha. Her heart thundered, caught between fear, exhilaration, and desire. She wanted to protest, to remind herself of reason. But every touch, every whisper of his breath against her skin, made her body betray her. And then, with a sudden fierceness, he pressed his lips to hers again. This kiss was different, less restrained, more claiming, as though he was imprinting himself onto her soul. She moaned softly, surrendering, letting herself be consumed by the fire he ignited. When they finally parted, he rested his forehead against hers. You belong to me, he murmured, and it wasn't a question. It was destiny. Lily's mind spun. She had wanted a kiss earlier that night, but now she realized the magnitude of what she had stepped into. She wasn't just in the presence of an alpha, she was in the heart of a kingdom. And she was the alpha's chosen. But the night was far from over. In the shadows, something, or someone was watching, and Lily had no idea that the biggest threat wasn't Dominic. It was the dark secret the alpha carried, a secret that could destroy them both before their bond could even truly begin. The dawn was just beginning to bleed into the sky, painting the forest in soft shades of pink and gold. Lily had spent the night in the alpha's protective presence, every touch and whisper from him searing into her memory. Yet even in the safety of the clearing, unease gnawed at her. Something wasn't right. The alpha, whose name she still only knew as a title, stood a few paces away, staring into the trees with a predatory intensity that made the hair on her arms stand on end. His jaw was tight, eyes narrowed, as if reading movements she couldn't see. What is it? She asked softly, her voice trembling slightly. He turned, his amber eyes softer for a moment as they met hers. There's a shadow within my pack, he said, voice low, laced with tension. Someone who seeks to undermine me and you. Lily's stomach dropped. Within your pack, but why? He shook his head, his expression darkening. Power, jealousy, fear. There are those who do not accept a mate chosen by the alpha. They see it as weakness, and they will test you, test us. Before she could respond, a loud growl erupted from the edge of the clearing. Several wolves emerged from the shadows, their eyes glowing fiercely. But these were different, hostile, aggressive, their fur bristling. Lily realized with a jolt that this was a confrontation. The alpha moved in front of her instantly, muscles coiled, every sense on high alert. Stay close, he commanded, his voice a low growl that carried authority beyond question. From the shadows, a tall, menacing figure stepped forward, a wolf shifter with a scar running down his cheek, eyes cold and calculating. Lily instinctively stepped back, fear clawing at her chest. You think you can control her? The stranger sneered, his tone dripping with malice. She's not yours to claim, Alpha. The Alpha's response was a growl that vibrated through the clearing. She is mine, he said, each word sharp as a blade, and anyone who challenges that will regret it. The tension snapped like a wire. The rival lunged, fangs bared, but the Alpha was faster. The fight was a blur of movement, claws, teeth, and raw strength. Lily's heart pounded as she watched him protect her, each strike precise, each movement lethal. When the enemy was finally subdued, pinned beneath the Alpha's overwhelming strength, he turned to her, chest heaving, eyes glowing with an almost feral intensity. "Do you understand now?" he asked, voice low and rough. "Being mine isn't just passion, it's survival." Lily's knees weakened, and he caught her before she fell. "Yes," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I understand." He pressed his forehead against hers, softer now, a stark contrast to the ferocity he had shown moments ago. "Good," he murmured, "because being with me will demand everything from you, heart, soul, and courage." Her pulse still raced, her body alive with adrenaline and desire. She realized that the Alpha wasn't just a man. He was a storm, a force of nature she couldn't resist. And now, more than ever, she needed to prove that she was worthy of him. But even as they stood together, victorious, the forest seemed to whisper secrets she couldn't yet hear. The enemy had been just the first test. Darker, more dangerous forces were lurking, forces that would push Lily and the Alpha to their limits. And as the first rays of sunlight filtered through the trees, Lily knew one thing with absolute certainty. She had already fallen too deeply to turn back.